Okay, everybody, welcome to our Tuesday night shiur, Parashat Chayei. So, I want to do something today that gives us a little, because we see that the Torah calls the death of tzaddikim life. So, I want to get a little bit of an insight to what tzaddikim are, and why the Torah calls their life, their death, life. And I actually want to focus on one attribute, and we'll see what this attribute is. It says, Vayu Chayei Sarah. This was the life of Chayei Sarah. It sounds like she had two lives, 100 shana, 100 years, and 20 shana, and 20 years, 7 shanim, Shnei Chayei Sarah. So it says that Chayei Sarah, it sounds like she had two lives, right? And we know, everybody knows the famous Rashi, I'm sure you've heard it many times, that by Sarai Menu, why did it spell out the years of her life? So Rashi says, "Lechach nichtav shana b'kol klal uchlal, lomar lecha shekol echad nidrash le'atzmo." That every year of her life, every moment, every year is an entity unto its own. Bat kaf kevat chet lechet. So just like she was by 100, she was 20. What was just like when she was 100, she didn't sin, so too was when she was 20. And so too by 100, she was without a chet. So her whole life, ubat chaf kevat zayin le'yofin, when she was 20, she had the beauty of a simple child, of a 7-year-old. Kulan shavim letova, shnei chayei sarah, that her whole life are shavim letova. We're all equal to good. So I want to understand what the Torah is regarding to the two lives of Sarah. And we always know that the famous thing that tzaddikim b'mitatam nikraim chayim. The righteous in their death are called life. And we see where Sarah died is very interesting. It says that Sarah died b'Kiryat Arba. Right? So comes right away the Or Chaim, and he's going to explain to us. It says, Vatamat Sarah, Ramaz HaKartuv Gomo b'Kiryat Arba. Why does it say Kiryat Arba? So I'm going to share with you an Or Chaim. The Or Chaim HaKadosh says like this. I don't think we've done an Or Chaim for a while, so it's good that the Or Chaim always sheds light into the deeper ideas of the Torah. And he says, I want to tell you, because when Rashi says B'Kiryat Arba, he gives a different reason, because there were 4 giants that were over there. But comes the Or Chaim, and he's going to give us an introduction to really what tzaddikim do, what the righteous people do in their life. Because Kol Amcha Yisrael tzaddikim, at some point, Hashem is going to expect of you to become a tzaddik too, in your own right. So he says, Ki chas v'shalom lo yityaches amita letzaddikim. The Torah has a problem with connecting death to righteous people. And he says, why did it say that Sarah died in Kiryat Arba? Perush, ir shayta bnuya me'arba yesodot. We know a person's made up of 4 yesodot, 4 primary, afar, mayim, right? You're made up of dust, you're made up of water, fire. There's 4 things that a person is made up of. She'agam shemeta mashpat b'hem b'chinat hachibur. Ki hatzadikim agam sheyamutu aguf eno mushlal min hachayim. Listen to what he says. When tzaddikim pass away, he's not talking now about their soul. Their body doesn't lack life. So the soul, you would think, okay, it's a metaphor. The Torah says that when a tzaddik passed away, he's still alive because his Torah is alive, his actions are alive. No, it says the Or Chaim, his body is alive. He's still a living body. Ki tzaddikim b'mitatam kuim chayim, utzeh umad mimaaser avachai bar yeshar. So he says, what does that mean? We're going to see the Gemara brings down a story. The Gemara brings down a story like this. It says like this, that the Gemara says, there was once a person digging in the graveyard, and they were digging in the land of Rabbi Nachman, and they came upon a corpse. Who was the corpse of? Rabbi Achai bar Yoshiyahu. So once they hit the corpse, as the diggers were digging, they hit the corpse. So what happened? Nachar be'u Rav Achai bar Yoshia. So he says to them, what happened? He snorted them. Atu v'amru le Rav Nachman. They came and they told Rav Nachman. And what happened? Nachar ben Gava. So they came and told Rav Nachman, right? A dead man. What happened? A dead man snorted at us. We were digging in the grave. We hit a body. And the body, he said, it shook. It said it made a sound. So they asked Rav Nachman when they came to Rav Nachman because it was in his land. Who is this? Who was this corpse? Amar le Yoshia, I'm the body of Achai bar Yoshia. So the dead person was talking. Rabbi Nachman was talking to this dead person. Amar le Rav Nachman to the corpse. Rav Nachman, they start now. He has the conversation with seemingly somebody who's dead. The Gemara is relating dead people are talking all of a sudden. So Amar le Rav Nachman, he said to Rav Achai, V'lav amar Rav Mari, hold on a sec. Tzadikim are going to become dust. Even the tzadikim will become dust. Amar le, who are you? Delo yadana le, I don't know. He says, what, you don't learn? He says, V'akri ktiv, it says, V'ashuv v'afar el haaretz, k'shaya, everything is going to go back, meaning that even when a tzaddik passes away, he's going to go back, his body's going to become, it's going to rot, and that's it. Amar le, so the body of Rav Achai said to Rav Nachman, you might have learned a little Torah. I'm sparing you the details, but he says like this: Dichtivu rakav atzamot kina. Kol mi sheyesh lo kina belibo, atzmotav markivim. Kol she'en lo kina belibo, atzmotav, right? En atzmotav markivim. A person who has jealousy, his bones rot. Somebody who doesn't have jealousy, his bones don't rot. What is jealousy? Jealousy doesn't have to mean that somebody sees in something else something and he wants it. The Chachamim in Pirkei Avot tell us like this. They tell us that there's three midot, there's three attributes shemotziim et ha'adam min ha'olam. They take you away from the world, meaning you're alive, but you're dead. Ata'ava, va'kina, va'kavod. Now, atava means lusting. Kina means jealousy. Kavod means respect. But what's the common denominator between all these three attributes? It's a person who's not happy with what he has. He doesn't have the midah, the attribute of istapkut. And this is what the Torah is going to shed us insight. And you see when HaKadosh Baruch Hu will first come on the scene, when he represents himself for the first time, it's going to be very important to us to understand what name HaKadosh Baruch Hu presents himself. You come, you say hello to somebody, ask you, what's your name? My name is Joe. God, when somebody asked him, when the Avot asked Hashem, what's your name? He reveals himself in a certain name, and we'll see why that's so important. So, the story continues, and what happened? Rav Nachman started feeling the body of Rav Achai, and he saw that his body was all intact. So he asked him, Liku ma legave debeta, goes, why don't you go get up and, you're buried here in my field. Go up and go be buried in a proper burial. So he says to him, I see that even the prophets you haven't learned. Dichtiv ve'adatem ki ani Hashem bepitchit v'rotem, the time for me will come where I'll already be able to move, but this hasn't come the time. But what we see from this over here is that the tzaddikim, not only does their shama stay intact, their bodies stay intact. It says, interestingly enough, we know that the miracle of Sarai Menu happened. What was the miracle of Sarai Menu? That as long as Sarah was alive, what used to happen? It says that the candles were lit me'erev Shabbat to erev Shabbat, and that there was always challah, and there was always a cloud over the tent of Sarah. Now, when Sarah passed away, all these things were removed seemingly, and later on, when Rivka went into the tent, they came back. Now, who was Sarah really? Just on a side note, Sarah was who? was the Gilgul, was the reincarnation of Chava. Now, why is that important? Because really, Sarah, Chava brought death to the world. And Sarah brought life to the world. She did the tikkun of Chava. Now, aside from the fact that Chava brought death to the world, let's think for a second. What was Chava doing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Adam Rishon, he says, from all the trees in the Gan, you can eat. But from this tree, don't eat. Now, a person who has the midah of istapkut, a person who's satisfied with what he has, you have 35 trees, you're going to be worried about one tree that you don't have? That's a ta'ava, kavod, v'akina, motzim et ha'adam min ha'olam. They weren't happy with what they had. They needed something else. The tzaddikim, it says, v'yivarech Hashem et Avraham bakol. So what are you're going to read this pasuk and you say, oh, of course Avraham was happy, had everything. That's what it means, v'yivarech et Avraham bakol. So comes the Noam Elimelech and says, you know what bracha Avraham Avinu gave to Yitzchak? He gave him the bracha of kol. And you know what bracha, what blessing Yitzchak Avinu gave to Yaakov? He gave him the bracha of kol. What does that mean? When Yaakov goes to finally meet Esav after so many years, right, he comes to Esav and he presents them all these presents. And Esav says to answer, look at the difference between the perception of Yaakov to the world and its possessions and the perception of Esav to the world and its possessions. When Yaakov Avinu goes down, when he goes down to Haran, what do tzaddikim ask from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Yaakov Avinu very simply, he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please do me a favor, give me lechem le'echol, ubeged lilvosh. All I'm asking you is from some bread to eat, right, and some clothes to wear. And we know that in Masechet Avot, what does it say to us? Masechet Avot, when it introduces us to how a person should live his life, it says like this, that a person should be satisfied with what? Lechem tochal, pat b'charvat tochal, al haaretz tishan, you should sleep on the land, right? That umayim b'mesorat tishteh. And if you do that, ashrecha ba'olam hazeh, v'tov, it says, v'im ata oseh ken, right? It says, kachi darka shel Torah, pat b'melech tochal, mayim b'mesorat tishteh, al haaretz tishan, ואם אתה עושה כן, אשריך וטוב לך, אשריך בעולם הזה, וטוב לך לעולם בא. Why does the Mishnah add that if you do this, אשריך בעולם הזה, טוב לך לעולם הבא? What do you mean if you do this? You just told me that the Torah is revealing to me how do you live, what's life. But if you do this, because really what the Torah is telling you is that you don't have to do this. If that's not your life, you're not obligated to put yourself on a lower level. But imata oseken, meaning that if you're in control, that no matter what you have, you do this, ashrecha ba'olam hazeh v'tov lech la'olam ba. What does it mean? What does it mean that Avraham, v'Hashem berech et Avraham bakol? Avraham realized that he had a kol. Why was Avraham happy? Because he lived a life where no matter what he had everything. And therefore he gives to Yitzchak that same bracha. The bracha of what he gave Yitzchak wasn't wealth. It says Avraham gave the Yitzchak the bracha of kol, the understanding to realize you want to live in this world a life where it's considered to be a life, chaim shem chaim. You have to realize no matter what you have kol. Now Yaakov adapted that lesson also. Because when Yaakov goes to Esav, and we know the enormous present that he's about to give to Esav, what does Esav say to Yaakov? What's the midah of Reshaim? It says, Beten Reshaim techsam. The stomach of the evil is always empty. They always feel a lacking.
Neglect.
No, it's a lacking. It's not neglect. The stomach of Reshaim, they feel a lacking. Because what is the perception of an evil person? The perception of a Rasha is that he's constantly wanting. You know what that is? To constantly want? That's Gehenom. That's hell. You want to live hell on this earth? It's called constantly want what you don't have. And really, that's the sickness of today's world.
Wasn't Abraham a wealthy man?
Yes, but that's not. Oh, so here is you're testifying to the disease that we all have today. The disease that we all have today is that we think that the more we have, the happier we'll be. Kam Shlomo HaMelech, listen to what Shlomo HaMelech says in Mishlei. Kam Shlomo HaMelech and says to you seemingly very simple words. Tov me'at birat Hashem. Good is a little bit with the fear of God. Me'ot serav ve'me'uma bo. Or having treasures and not having the fear of Hashem. What does that mean? Shlomo HaMelech was no baby. He wants to shed light for you to understand what a proper perception. What does it mean that it's good to have a little bit birat Hashem? What understanding comes from this verse? So Shlomo HaMelech is coming to tell you like this. And before I tell you that, I'm going to tell you this story. We know that Rav in the Gemara in Brachot says like this. Amar Rav b'chol yom yotzet bat kol. And every day a heavenly voice comes out and says, Kol ha'olam nizun bigal Chaninya beni. The whole world gets sated, the whole world gets food, gets sustenance, because Chaninya, my son. Chaninya was a big tzaddik, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. So the bat kol, the heavenly voice, came out and says that everybody gets fed in the world because Chaninya beni. V'Chaninya beni me'erev Shabbat ad erev Shabbat, dai lo bekav charuvim. And Chaninya, my son, from erev Shabbat to erev Shabbat, it's enough for him to have what? How do you say charuvim in English?
Angels.
No, the black things that everybody, charuvim, the black things that have no taste. Regardless,
Arabs?
what?
Arabs?
Maybe. So, anyways, he had charuvim. Now comes the pre tzaddik and says like this. Rav wasn't in the generation of Chaninya. Listen to what the pre tzaddik says. He tells us that an heavenly voice came out, right? And he says like this. Really, when Rav said this statement, was many years afterwards. Chaninya wasn't alive. You think, okay, there's a tzaddik in the generation, and this tzaddik, he limits his life, he's happy with the little that he has, and therefore the whole world gets sustained because of him. He becomes the pipe for the whole world. Comes the pre-tzaddik of Tzadok HaKohen and says something very interesting. When Rav lived was many generations afterwards, he says, you know what it means, Chaninya? He goes, in every generation, Chaninya is not a name. He says Chaninya is really a name of every neshama that lives a life. He says, Ubechol dor vador, in every generation, yesh nefashot ka'ele. There are souls like this that exist in every single generation, like Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. And really, when this bat kol, this heavenly voice, comes out and says that the whole world gets fed because Chaninya beni, it's talking about a certain soul, שבשבילם השם יתברך נושא פנים לכל העולם, להשפיע מזון לכל בריאותיו. Because of these souls called Chaninya, you know what Chaninya means? Chanan, from the Lashon Chanan, that he's a soul that understands that whatever I have, it's because the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave it to me. Not because I'm entitled to it. Ki chanani Hashem. Hashem gave it to me. And he's thankful for it. You know, once when I was coming out of the mikveh, I saw a very old man. He was retired. So I said to him, so how are you today? He goes, thankful. I was shocked. I'm like, with one word, the guy ever put all your problems to the side. You realize that this person is living a life, what's called a life. He's thankful. Like the Megillah Necha says, Ma itonen adam chai. What should a person have to complain about when he's alive? The problem is we're going all day long focusing on what we don't have. When you focus on what you don't have, that's Gehenom ba'olam hazeh, that's hell in this world. One of the commentators that describes hell, you know what they describe hell as? Imagine something that you loved in this world, and they give it to you in that place, they show it to you and you want it, and the want gets stronger, and the want gets stronger, but you never get it. That's most people's lives here. Most people live that way. We're living hell in this world. Now listen to what the Rivash, when he left his will, he commands his children, he says like this to them. He goes, I want you to understand something. Vayu Chayei Sarah. Says if you read these words, Vayu Chayei Sarah, Rashet Tevot Begematria Shem HaKadosh Shaddai. How? What's Shaddai? Shamar Leolamo Dai. Chayei Sarah in Rashet Tevot is the name of a Kadosh Baruch Hu called Shaddai that told the world die. Umerumaz bazeh, he says, and hinted over here is the secret of every single tzaddik. You want to be a tzaddik? Become friends with this attribute. Become friends with this midah. Umerumaz bazeh inyan ha'istapkut. Kema'amar Chazal, like the Chachamim teach us, Ezu ashir asameach bechelko. Who is the wealthy man that's happy with his own lot? Ainu amistapek b'ma sheyesh lo. He's happy, he's satisfied with what he has. Ve'ish chaynika. This is what the Rivash left in his will for his children. He goes, I'm about to die, I want to teach you how to live. Ve'ish chaynika. She'no doeg klal. He's not worried. V'hu sameach b'chol hamatzavim. He's happy in all situations. Vezo aita dargat Sarah. And this was the level of Sarah Imenu. And he says, and he learns the way that the Torah says, but Kuf, what does it mean that she was 20? Somebody who's 20 is like a lion to the world. He wants to conquer the whole world. When the Gemara says, Kol ha'olam bishvili nivra, that guy took it seriously. The whole world was created for me. He really thinks at age 20 that everything's his. He's about to conquer everything. He has the conquering. He says when the Torah says that Sarah, in that same heated moment that you want the whole world, v'tamid chaser lo, and it's always lacking. He feels a lack. Az hayta kebat zayin. Then she was like a 7-year-old. What is a 7-year-old? 7-year-old, he doesn't mean everything is good. You give him a toy, the guy's happy-go-lucky. You give him a piece of bread, you gave him a steak. He's always happy. Lo chasar la'adam klum im mistapek b'ma sheyesh lo. Bat kuf. When the Torah says that Sarah was 100, kibat chaf lechet. What does it mean when a guy's 100, what are you worried about already? Tomorrow you're gone, my friend. What are you going to worry about? Who's going to pay the mortgage? You're 100 years old. What's there to worry about already? Your biggest worry is what if you're going to make it to lunch. So he says, Bat kuf kebat chaf lechet ainu linyan da'agot inyanei olam hazeh. She didn't care when she was like that. She didn't care about this world. Like she lived like that when she was 20. כמו בתקופת ה-20 שאינו מרבה לידו כל כך דאגות עולם הבא. כמו כן, so look at Sarah now. Very interestingly what the Rivash tells us. That Sarah, when you're 20, you're not so much thinking about the world to come. Your focus is on this world. He says, when Sarah כמו בתקופת ה-20 שאינו מרבה לידו כל כך דאגות עולם הבא, כמו כן הייתה בהיות בת קוף, מלאה ביטחון וחיזוק ברחמי השם יתברך שהוא מלא רחמים וירחם עליה גם בעלמא דעתי. At 100, she didn't even worry about the world to come. As an insight to tzaddikim, even about your reward in the world to come, you're not worried. Because you put your faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that even there He'll give you die. וחיזוק ברחמיה יתברך שהוא וירחם עליה גם בעלמא, כמו בתקופת ה-20 שהוא מתחזק כל פעם, מקבל עד מהיום והלאה להטיב דרכיו בחייו. And what about a person that's 20? If he's really into spirituality, he's really into Torah, he has the power of a lion, he learns more, he becomes more, he takes that eagerness and he gets closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sarah was like that at 100 too. Itchazek, and when she was 100, she felt like she was 20. Although it might be my last day, it's also my first day in the world. I'm going to take advantage. So the tzaddikim are living a world of istapkut. They're happy with everything. Sarah Rashi Tevot Kel Shaddai. Very interesting that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, he has a ta'ana. He comes to Moshe Rabbeinu and he tells him, listen, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're asking me over here to reveal to you in my holy name. But the Avot, Lo nitgaliti lahem ela bekel Shaddai. I revealed myself to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov with the name of Shaddai. Interestingly enough, when you say every morning, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Elokei Yaakov, these people got the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bekel Shaddai. There were people that Avraham had kol. He realized that he had everything. When Yaakov Avinu finally comes to Esav, what does Esav answer? Oh, it's okay, I don't need your presents. Why? Ki yesh li rav. I have a lot. What does Yaakov say? Yesh li kol. I have everything. Yaakov Avinu, the difference between perception of Esav and Yaakov were two different world perceptions. Yaakov had kol. He had everything, so he was alive. And what does the Torah say about Yaakov? Ve'Yaakov lo met. And Yaakov didn't die. Because a person that lives in this world thinking that he has kol, in his whole time he never wants for something that he doesn't have, that kind of person never dies. Now the Gemara relates a story in Masechet Ketuvot. The Gemara relates a story in Masechet Ketuvot about who? About Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Rabbeinu HaKadosh was called, he was one of the people that put Torah Sheba'al Peh, he wrote it down. And the Gemara says a story about Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Shelachar moto, after his death, relates to Gemara. Aya magia lebeto bechol Shabbat. Every Shabbat night, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, he's dead, right? He would come Shabbat with everybody. Shabbat Shalom, sweetheart, how are you? Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Shalom. They saw him, everybody was in shock. They didn't need to sing Shalom Aleichem, Malachim. They didn't welcome the Malachim, they welcomed their father back. So what happened? And he says like this, that Rabbeinu HaKadosh היה נראה בבגדים חמודות. He would come with a suit and the whole 5 yards. שהיה לובש בשבת ולא בתכריכים. It's not like he got out of the grave and he wore the white shrouds. He wore a nice suit for Shabbat. להודיע שעדיין היה בתוקפו. Not only that, when he came to the house on Shabbat, he made Kiddush. And when he made Kiddush, he acquitted everybody else. Imagine a dead person acquitting live people. Because in Kiddush it says the Metim are what? What are the Metim? Chofshim min ha-mitzvot. They're free from the mitzvot. So how can Rabbeinu HaKadosh acquit everybody from Kiddush? So the Chidah comes and asks on this question. So the Torah comes, the Divrei Yoel. And the Divrei Yoel tells us something very interesting. He says that really, who was Rabbeinu HaKadosh? Comes the Divrei Yoel and says like this, V'chen katav begilgulei neshamot l'Rama Mipanu. The Rama Mipanu wrote a whole book about who was who. Throughout Tanakh, throughout the Torah, we have a people that keep appearing. He tells us that Sarah was the reincarnation of Chava, and he comes and tells us like this, that Rabbeinu HaKadosh, you know why he was able to come to his house every Shabbat? Because he was a spark of who? Yaakov. And Yaakov, the one that in his meeting with Esav said, my brother, yesh li kol, I have everything. The Torah relates, Yaakov lo met. Yaakov didn't die. Not just the soul of Yaakov didn't die. Yaakov in his totality didn't die. Where he still came back to the world as Rabbeinu HaKadosh every Shabbat to make Kiddush for his family. And he was considered alive even to the point where what? He acquitted the people of his household from the obligation of Kiddush. Now Rabbeinu HaKadosh was like, Max, you hearing this? He was very wealthy. Huge wealth at that time. He was so wealthy by him, how did they depict wealth at the time of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi? He had radishes on his table even in the winter and the summer. But before Rabbeinu HaKadosh left the world, seemingly left the world, he picked up his 10 hands, he picked up his 10 fingers, and he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you should know, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I testify that I didn't even enjoy a pinky of this world. What does that mean? The man had great wealth. He had the bracha of Avraham. He had the bracha of Yaakov. He had kol. He had everything. But he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I didn't even enjoy a pinky in this world. What was Rabbeinu HaKadosh telling us? That he never wanted for more. He was always happy with what he had. He had the bracha of kol. A person who's constantly wanting can't live. That's why once a student came to back there, he goes, I want to learn the midah v'istapkut. I want to learn this midah. I want to be like Avraham Avinu. I want to learn the midah of kol. Avraham HaKadosh Baruch Hu berached Avraham b'kol. So he said to him like this. So he said to him, I'm going to send you to the house of Rav Zusha. Rav Zusha was a big Talmid Chacham. So the student went to the house of Rav Zusha. He knocks on the door and he says to the Rebbitzin, hello, I'm here to see the Rav. It wasn't like today that before you got to see the Rebbe, you had to walk through all the security guards and you had to walk through this guy and pay that guy until you finally came to the Rav. There were simple people. He knocks on the door, he wants to see the Rav. Okay, welcome, Baruch haba. She says to him, I'm sorry, the rabbi's not here. He's in the study hall. He's in the Beit Midrash. He's learning. So the student was in the house, and he was looking at the house, and it seemed like a very old home, very small. There was barely any food on the table. He didn't realize how these people. He felt so bad. He went out and bought food for them. He put food on the table. He went out. And then he went to see Rav Zusha. So when he came to Rav Zusha, he saw an old man, really doesn't seem like anything special, sitting in the corner of the Beit Midrash, and he says to him, and Rav Zusha noticed him coming, so he says to him, how can I help you? He goes, my Rebbe sent me to learn from you. He goes, to learn what? He goes, I want to learn the attribute of istapkut, how to be satisfied with a little bit. So Rav Zusha looked at him and says, I don't know why he sent you to me, I have everything. And the student knew he came from his house. What do you mean you have everything? You barely have anything on the table, you have nothing. Rav Zusha lived, Yaakov Avinu. Rav Zusha lived, I have kol. A person, we think, the Torah tells us, a person who has a mana, rotze matayim. Shlomo Malca is coming to tell us that when you have a mana, you want 2. You want 200. And then when you want 200, you want 300. It doesn't matter, the Torah is relating to us a very interesting idea. It doesn't matter how much you have if you're not happy with what you have. If you don't think that you have everything, it doesn't matter. That's why in every generation, the only reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu sustains the whole generation is because this neshama called Chaninya, this neshama that understands that everything that I have, I'm not entitled to anything. That everything that I have is because Chanani Hashem. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to me as a Chanina. We know that, listen to how far this goes. There were certain people that when they came to this world, the Chidah asks the same question on how Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi that came every Shabbat, was able to acquit other people. He goes, I don't understand. If a person who passes away is acquitted from the mitzvot, right? What happens now when Avraham and Eliyahu Navi came and many stories that the Torah relates to us that when they came, they had 9 people. Avraham always all of a sudden showed up and he became part of a minyan. How can Avraham become part of a minyan? How can Eliyahu Navi become part of a minyan? We know that women related stories when they needed to go to the mikveh, all of a sudden Sarah appeared. And she showed them where there was a mikveh. Not only that, we know the Midrash tells us something very interesting. That really, the oil of Sarah, the tent of Sarah, where the cloud of glory was always above it, and her candle was always lit, and there was always dough there, because Sarah was really the tikkun of Chava. Even when Sarah passed away, those things still existed. She would still be at the house. Yitzchak still saw her. She was living in the house. Nobody else saw her. And the same idea by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, that even though he came every Erev Shabbat, every Friday night to the house, once the neighbors found out, he could no longer come. Why? Lo lotzilaz on the other tzaddikim. not to be motzi laws on other righteous people. Why he was zochet to this special zchut. The reason Avraham, Sarah was still there. And it only showed itself when Rivka came. But these people, why were they zochet to this? Because they lived in the world of Shadakai. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to the Avot, the first time HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes on the scene, when he revealed himself to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, these are the people that are going to relate your name to the rest of the world. You know what the first thing you're teaching them? Be happy with what you have. Sha'amal olamot dai. Know to understand that you have kol. When a person lives with V'akadosh Baruch berech et Avraham bakol, what does it mean he gave Avraham kol? He gave him the understanding that he has everything. And we know the Rambam says something very interesting. The world teaches you what? The more you have, the more you're alive. The bigger the house, the more cars. But what happens to a person? What does that do to you? That really brings into you death. Why? Because the more you're giving, the more you want. Because before you had a big house, it's like renovations. You know what happens to a person when he starts to renovate? You start to think about the kitchen. Then the kitchen goes to the living room. Then the living, before you know it, the whole house needs renovation. Why? Before you renovated the house, you were happy. Once you started seeing more, now all of a sudden you're not happy. You see every little thing. Now the whole house needs renovation. Same thing with the person. When you teach yourself to want more, you're constantly wanting more. That's what the world teaches you. The Rambam says that in the end of days, what's going to be? There's going to be a lot of shefa in the world. You see today a person what? Has a lot of shefa. You have many things. A person goes into his closet. He doesn't have one coat. He has 3. He doesn't have one suit. He has 5. One shirt. Before they used to live on one shirt and one pants. Today we're living a life with such abundance, yet what? Nobody's alive. Every month you have a new iPhone.
CNN, big news.
Every month you have a new iPhone. They're teaching you to constantly want more. Yaakov was bakol. Comes the Rambam and tells us, in the end of days you're going to have such shefa, but everybody's going to be aniyim. Everybody's going to be impoverished. What do you mean? How can you walk into a supermarket where you see apples of 7 different kinds, and throughout the whole year there's such an abundance? How can everybody be poor? He says because aniyim dat, they have no dat. What does it mean? In our language, what does it mean when the Rambam says that we have no dat? He goes, we lost perception. We think that the more we have, the happier we'll be. But that doesn't translate into life. That's what the Rivash was teaching us. Vayu Chayei Sarah, Rashe Tevot, Shem HaKadosh Shaddai. To teach us, you know what it means when the Torah calls a life? When you understand what it means, die. You understand what it means, you have it all. When a person lives a life where he has it all, even in his death, they call it Chayei Sarah. You're zochet that even your body is still alive. Because you lived Olam Haba. Living Olam Haba in this world means tzaddikim, what did they do? You know what the tzaddikim did? They took their yetzer hara, they took their evil inclination, and they made it good. How did they make their evil inclination good? They changed their whole reality until even it affected the body. You know, like once the Chafetz Chaim, he asked the person who was asking, he goes, so how are you? He goes, you know, Rabbi, it could be better. So the Chafetz Chaim answered him, if it could be better, it would be better. Because the Chafetz Chaim understood this idea of kol. That tzaddikim live a life of I have everything. And I don't want for anything else. Even Rabbi Nachman says in one of his Torot, Rabbi Nachman says in Torah Nun Dalet, he says as follows.
Is secondary. Look, everybody looks at the sun.
He says that the midah of istapkut is also by Torah. Even in Torah, a person has to have the midah of istapkut. Why? Think of it, a person would walk into a Beit Midrash. You walk in, you see all these books. You're going to tell yourself, where do I start, where do I finish? comes the Torah and says to you, even in spirituality, Lo alecha melacha ligmor. You don't have to finish. Don't think you have to conquer the world. Velo ata ben chorim lipater mimena. But you're also not free to not engage in the Torah. To understand the Torah is giving you a perception. It doesn't matter. You can, by Torah also, in spirituality, a person can also walk around moping the whole day. Oh, I wish I knew this. I wish I knew that. And then you're not happy in your service of Hashem also. This midah v'istapkut is also in spirituality. Lo alecha melacha ligmor. You don't have to finish. You have to be engaged. So if in spirituality the Torah teaches you the attribute of istapkut, the attribute of understanding that wherever I am, I have to be satisfied. Of course you have to want more. That's in spirituality. In materialism, the true happiness is to come to this bracha that Avraham Avinu instilled in Yitzchak, and Yitzchak instilled in Yaakov. And since we're the sons of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, this bracha is instilled to us. When the Torah says that we want to give you life, it wants to give you a true life. And that life comes with the blessing. The blessing is not about how much you have or what you're lacking. Because remember, beten reshaim tichsar, and tzaddik ochel lesova nafsho. That tzaddik is happy with everything. He eats to satisfy himself. He's satisfied with everything. When you ask for a Kadosh Baruch Hu for something, ask him for the bracha of kol. That no matter what you have, you think you have it all. And when a person lives a life that no matter what he has it all, then he's alive. That's a life that you'll call Chayei Sarah. And the Torah expects that from every one of us. Because Maaseh Avot Siman Levanim. The lives of our forefathers and our foremothers are a way for us to live also. The Torah wants to be alive. Remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give me kol. Let me be satisfied with everything you have. The next tefillah that you take, this is your mission now. Your mission is not to ask for more. It's to ask Hashem to be happy with what you have. Then you'll be alive. Then if something HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you, it's unexpected. When things come unexpected, that's a joy. When you expect for something, you're leading yourself to failure. Avraham understood that. Avraham was happy bakol. That's the secret of life. You want to really life? You want to be alive? You want to live the life of Sarah, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov? You want to be like your forefathers? When the Torah tells you Maaseh Avot Siman Levanim, you want to feel Olam Haba in this world, the world to come in this world? Stop wanting for things that you don't have and start appreciating those that you do.